They tore out my speed bumps like they owned the road, so I took the whole road back. Not metaphorically, not in court. I mean, I literally peeled the asphalt off and left them with red clay and rainwater. And the wild part is, I didn't do it out of anger at first. I did it because I was tired of being treated like I didn't exist on land my family bled for. My name's Caleb Turner. I'm 41. I run a small paving outfit down in southern Alabama. Nothing fancy. Just me, two crews, a couple aging trucks that smell like diesel and hot tar even when they're parked. Most days I'm fixing other people's mistakes, patching cracks, filling potholes, keeping roads alive long after folks stop caring how they got there. And for the longest time, I thought that was enough. Honest work, quiet life, keep your head down. Thing is, 15 years ago, I made a deal that changed everything. See, my granddad used to own about 50 acres out here, pecan trees, dirt paths, the kind of place where time just sits still. When he passed, the land came to me, but I couldn't keep all of it, taxes, bills, life catching up, so I sold most of it off to a developer. Nice guy at the time, real convincing, talked about bringing value to the area, building community, all that polished language. What I kept, though, was the road. 800 meters of narrow asphalt cutting through what used to be our land, connecting that new gated neighborhood to the highway. I made sure the paperwork was airtight. They got easement access, meaning they could use the road. Sure, but they didn't own it. Not the surface, not the maintenance, not the decisions. That stayed with me. At the time, nobody cared. Houses went up fast, big ones too. White columns, stone driveways, fountains that probably cost more than my trucks. Folks moved in with their Teslas, their BMWs, their perfectly trimmed hedges, and me, I stayed right where I was. Same small house near the bend in the road, same porch, same view, just now surrounded by people who didn't know a thing about where they were living. And for years that worked. I maintained that road like it was part of my body. Filled every crack before it spread, sealed it every couple years, kept it smooth enough that nobody had to think about it. Never charged them a dime, not once. I figured, hey, they use it, I take care of it, we all move on. But things started shifting, slow at first, like most problems do. They formed an HOA, homeowners association, real organized, real polished. At first it was just landscaping rules, mailbox colors, the usual stuff. Then it turned into something else, control, appearances, standards. And that's when I first heard her name. Melissa Crane. She was the HOA president, mid-40s, always dressed like she had somewhere better to be, even when she didn't. Talked in that tone. You know the one. Polite on the surface, but sharp underneath, like every sentence comes with a judgment. Our first real interaction was about 5 years back. She showed up at my place, heels clicking on my gravel like she owned it, looked around at my trucks, my tools, the oil stains, and said, "Mr. Turner, we've received a few concerns from residents about the visual impact of your property." I remember just leaning on my tailgate, wiping my hands on a rag, trying not to laugh. "Visual impact," I said. "You mean my work trucks?" She smiled, tight, controlled. "We prefer to maintain a certain aesthetic in the community." I looked past her at those million-dollar houses, then back at her. "This ain't your community," I told her. "This is my land." She didn't like that, not one bit. From then on, it was little things. Complaints about noise when my crews left early. Comments about road quality, like I wasn't the one keeping it drivable. Suggestions, always suggestions about how things should be handled. I let most of it slide. Didn't see the point in fighting over words, but I noticed something. They were getting comfortable, too comfortable, like they started believing that because they lived there, they controlled everything around them. And then came the curve. Right near my house, the road bends hard, about 45 degrees, no streetlights, trees crowding the edge. Kids from the neighborhood cross there after school, cutting through to get to the bus stop. I've seen near misses, cars taking it too fast, tires screeching. One time a kid dropped his backpack and froze in the middle of the road, while some guy in a black SUV slammed his brakes. That stuck with me. So I did what I've done my whole life. I fixed the problem. I installed 4 concrete speed bumps along that stretch, solid ones, about 6 inches high, painted bright yellow with reflective strips so you couldn't miss them even at night. Took me a full day, measured spacing, made sure they'd slow traffic without wrecking suspensions. It wasn't pretty, sure, but it was safe. And for about 12 hours, it worked. Next morning, I step outside with my coffee, and something feels off before I even see it. The road looks wrong. Too smooth. I walk down there, and my stomach just drops. Every single speed bump gone. Not removed clean, no, smashed. Broken concrete scattered into the ditch like trash. Yellow paint scraped up, reflective tape torn apart. Like somebody didn't just want them gone, they wanted to make a point. I stood there for a long minute, just staring at it, feeling that slow burn in my chest. Then I noticed the envelope. Taped to my mailbox, thick paper, cream-colored, the kind that costs more than it should. I pull it off, open it up, and there it is. Violation of HOA aesthetic standards. $900 removal fee. Signed, Melissa Crane. I actually laughed, not because it was funny, but because I couldn't believe the nerve. They tore out something I built on land I own, and then fined me for it. That's when I knew this wasn't about speed bumps. This was about control, and they were about to find out they didn't have it. I didn't storm over there, didn't bang on doors or start shouting. That's not really how I operate. When something doesn't sit right, I slow down. I look at it from every angle until the picture gets clear. And right then, standing there with broken concrete at my feet and that ridiculous letter in my hand, the picture got real clear, real fast. They thought I was just the help. Just the guy who kept the road smooth so their cars wouldn't rattle. Not the owner, not the one with the actual say. So I went inside, poured myself another cup of coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and pulled out the paperwork. Now, I keep things organized. Always have. Every deed, every contract, every amendment from when that land was sold, all in a folder my granddad used to keep his records in. Worn leather, smells like dust and old paper. I flipped through it slow, not because I didn't know what was in there, but because I wanted to feel it again, remind myself exactly where the lines were drawn. And there it was, plain as day. Right-of-way easement. Access only. No authority over modifications. No shared maintenance rights. No governing control. That road, every inch of it, was mine. Still, I didn't trust just my reading of it. So I called up my lawyer, Dean Harlow. Old friend, been handling my contracts for years. Guy's got a dry sense of humor, doesn't say much unless it matters. I explained the situation, read him the letter word for word. There was a pause on the line. Then I heard him chuckle. "Caleb," he said, "they fined you for altering your own property? Seems that way." Another pause. Then he goes, "You're not just in the clear, you're untouchable here. They've got usage rights, that's it. They don't get to dictate a damn thing about that road." I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling, feeling something settle in my chest. Not anger exactly, something quieter, heavier. Permission. Hypothetically, I said, if I decided to stop maintaining it. Dean didn't hesitate. "That's your call. You've been doing it voluntarily. There's no clause forcing you to keep it paved, or even drivable, for that matter." That part hung in the air for a second. Not even drivable. I thanked him, hung up, and just sat there, listening to the clock tick on the wall. Outside, I could hear cars passing over that smooth stretch of asphalt, the same asphalt I'd spent years maintaining for people who didn't think twice about tearing out something meant to keep their own kids safe. That's when the idea came, not all at once, but piece by piece. If they wanted control, if they thought the road belonged to them, then maybe it was time they saw what it actually meant to rely on something they didn't own. Next morning, I made a call. Rented a skid steer. Bobcat, midsize, nothing fancy but enough to do the job. Cost me about $300 for the day. Picked it up myself, drove it back slow, feeling the weight of what I was about to do settling in with every mile. I didn't rush it. Parked it at the edge of the road, right where the neighborhood entrance starts. Took a minute, just standing there, looking down that stretch of clean black asphalt, 15 years of upkeep, layer by layer, all done by my hands or my crew. Then I climbed in, fired it up, and lowered the blade. The first scrape. I'll never forget that sound. Asphalt doesn't just come off clean, it resists. There's this tearing noise, like fabric ripping, but heavier, deeper. The blade caught the edge, dug in, and slowly, the surface started to peel back. Black pavement curling up in thick strips, exposing the red Georgia clay underneath, untouched for decades. I worked for 13 hours straight that day. No music, no breaks longer than a few minutes. Just me, the machine, and that road coming apart piece by piece. Cars started backing up at first. People confused, some got out, watching from a distance like they weren't sure what they were seeing. Around midday, I saw Melissa pull up. White SUV, spotless as always, she stepped out, sunglasses on. Heels again, like she thought she could walk into the middle of a construction site and still look in control. She waved her arms, yelling over the engine. I cut the machine, climbed down. "What do you think you're doing?" she snapped, looking around at the torn-up asphalt like it personally offended her. I wiped my hands, calm as I could be. "Working on my road." "You're destroying it," she said. I tilted my head a little. "No, I'm removing material." Her jaw tightened. "You can't just— people live here, Caleb. This is their access point." "Easement access," I corrected. "You might want to check your paperwork." That hit a nerve. You could see it in the way her posture shifted, just slightly. "This will affect property values," she said, like that was the ultimate argument. I shrugged. "Maybe." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "If this is about the speed bumps, we can discuss." "No." I cut in, still calm, but firmer now. "That wasn't a discussion when you tore them out." Silence for a second. Then she straightened up, that same polished tone coming back. "You're making a mistake." I gave her a small nod. "We'll see." Then I climbed back into the Bobcat and started it up again, conversation over. By sunset, about half that road was gone. And then it rained. Not a light drizzle. I'm talking one of those heavy southern storms that just sits over you for hours. I stood on my porch that night, watching it come down, water hitting that exposed clay, soaking in, turning it darker, thicker. Next morning, that road wasn't a road anymore. It was mud. Thick, red, sticky mud that grabbed onto tires and didn't let go. First car I saw try to come through was a black BMW. Guy probably thought he could just power through it. Bad call. Back wheels spun, fishtailing side to side, mud spraying up the sides of his car like paint. Took him 5 minutes just to get halfway through. I watched the whole thing from my porch, cup of sweet tea in hand. Didn't feel good, didn't feel bad either. Just necessary. By day 3, it got worse. More rain, deeper ruts. Some spots were 4 inches down where tires had sunk in. Water started pooling in the low areas, turning sections into standing puddles that looked more like swamp than road. Brown water, thick with clay, smelling like wet earth and rust. One of the Teslas got stuck right near the bend, couldn't get traction. Just sat there, wheels spinning uselessly until they had to call a tow truck. I heard later it cost them $600 to pull it out. Deliveries stopped coming in. School buses refused to drive down. Parents had to park at the highway and walk their kids through mud just to get home. And all of a sudden, that smooth, invisible convenience I'd been providing for 15 years became very, very visible. By the end of the week, nobody was ignoring me anymore. By day 7, the road wasn't just inconvenient. It was a problem nobody in that neighborhood could pretend away anymore. You could see it in how quiet things got. Fewer cars trying to push through, more people just standing at the edge of the mud like they were waiting for it to fix itself. But roads don't fix themselves, not out here. That morning, I was on my porch again, same chair, same view, coffee this time instead of tea, when I saw them coming. Melissa in front, 3 HOA board members behind her, all of them dressed like they were headed to a brunch they didn't want to miss, except now they had on these brand new boots, still stiff, barely broken in. They picked their way through the mud like it was something personal, something offensive. I didn't get up right away, just watched. She stopped a few feet from my porch, looked up at me, and for the first time since I'd met her, she didn't look completely in control. "Caleb," she said, trying to keep that steady tone. "This has gone far enough." I took a slow sip of coffee. "Has it?" "This is affecting everyone," she went on. "Children can't get to school, emergency vehicles." "They could," I said, setting the cup down, "if the road was maintained." She exhaled, sharp. "Then maintain it." I leaned forward a little, resting my elbows on my knees. I did. For 15 years. One of the board members, a guy in a polo shirt that probably cost more than my boots, stepped in. "Look, we're willing to be reasonable here." "That's new," I muttered, not even trying to hide it. Melissa shot him a look, then focused back on me. "What do you want?" There it was. Not a demand, not a threat, a question. I stood up, walked inside for a second, grabbed a folder off the kitchen table, same one with all my paperwork, but now there was something extra in it. Came back out, handed her a printed sheet. "My invoice," I said. She took it, scanned the page, and I watched her expression change, piece by piece. Asphalt materials, $87,000, she read slowly. 10-year maintenance contract, $6,500 annually, paid up front. She flipped the page. Consulting fee, $12,000. Her eyes snapped up to mine. $164,000. I nodded once. That's what it costs to do it right. That's absurd. The guy in the polo said immediately. That's real. I cut in. You wanted control over how this road looks, how it functions. This is what that responsibility costs. Melissa's grip on the paper tightened. You're extorting us. I shook my head, calm as ever. No, I'm offering you a solution. She stared at me for a long second, and I could see the calculation happening behind her eyes. Pride fighting with reality. What's the condition? She asked finally. I let a small pause hang there, just enough. You buy the materials, I said, and you lay the asphalt yourselves. Silence. You supervise? She asked. I oversee, I corrected. Thickness, temperature, compaction, every inch. Nothing gets approved without me signing off on it. The guy in the polo actually laughed. You expect us to pave a road? I met his eyes. I expect you to understand what goes into the thing you've been taking for granted. Melissa folded the paper, slow and deliberate. We'll be in touch. I nodded. You know where to find me. They turned and walked back through that mud, a little less careful this time. Boots already stained, posture a little heavier than when they arrived. And for a moment, I thought that might be it. That maybe they'd push back, try legal action, drag it out. But life has a way of speeding things up when people get uncomfortable enough. About 2 weeks later, I heard what happened. Melissa's husband, Daniel, I think his name was, came home late one night, tried to walk through that stretch without watching his step, slipped. Went down hard. Mud all over him. Ruined a suit that, from what I heard, cost about $2,000. Didn't break anything, but his pride took a hit. And pride, that's a powerful motivator. Next thing I know, there's an emergency HOA meeting. Realtors pulling listings because nobody wants to show houses with a mud pit for an entrance. Property values starting to dip, not crashing, but enough to make people nervous. 3 days after that, I get a call. Melissa. Her voice was different this time, still controlled, but softer around the edges. We're prepared to move forward, she said. With the terms? I asked. A pause then. Yes. No changes. No. I looked out at that road, still muddy, still holding water in the deeper sections. Then I said, then we'll start Friday. Wire transfer clears first. It will, she replied. And it did. $99,000 came through that Friday morning. Partial up front, enough to cover materials and lock things in. The rest structured into that contract they'd signed, 10 years, my terms. Saturday morning, a truck rolled in carrying 40 tons of hot asphalt. Steam rising off it in the early heat. Smell hitting the air like something familiar, something I understood better than anything else. And right behind it, they showed up. Melissa, the polo guy, the other board members, 6 of them total. All wearing borrowed work boots, gloves that still had the tags tucked in, clothes they clearly didn't mind ruining, or maybe just didn't realize how bad it would get. I didn't say much. Just sat on the tailgate of my truck, coffee in one hand, clipboard in the other, and pointed. Start with the base layer, I said. Even spread. Don't rush it. They got to work. At first, it was almost amusing. Careful movements, trying to keep things neat, like this was some kind of weekend project. But asphalt doesn't care about neat. It cares about heat, timing, pressure. Within an hour, the sun was high, pushing 90 degrees. The material started cooling faster than they expected, getting harder to spread evenly. They were sweating, gloves coming off, hands getting dirty, real dirty. By hour 3, the complaints started. This is harder than it looks. No kidding, I said, not looking up from my clipboard. Blisters showed up quick. Soft hands don't last long against tools they've never held before. I saw Melissa flex her fingers at one point, jaw tight, but she didn't stop. I'll give her that, she didn't quit. Every so often, I'd walk over, check a section, then shake my head. Too thin, I'd say. Pull it up, redo it. They'd look at me like I was joking. I wasn't. So they did it again. And again. 11 hours, that's how long it took. By the end, they were exhausted, clothes stained with black tar, faces red from heat and effort, movements slower, heavier. That polished look they all carried before gone, replaced with something more honest. When they finally finished, I walked the entire stretch, slow, deliberate. Checked edges, ran my boot over the surface, made sure the compaction held. Then I turned back to them. "Better," I said. No smiles, just quiet. I nodded once, then gestured toward the back of my truck. "Now we install the speed bumps." Melissa blinked. "The 4 from before." I shook my head. "6, I said, "and we're going a little higher this time." No one argued. They just got to work. 8 inches tall, solid, bright yellow, reflective strips catching the light just right. Impossible to ignore. Impossible to remove without a whole lot more effort than last time. When it was all done, I handed over the final paperwork. 10-year maintenance contract. My approval required for any changes, any modifications, any removals, all go through me. They signed it. No speeches, no more threats, just signatures on paper that locked everything in place. And just like that, the road was mine again. Funny thing is, I still maintain it the same way I always did. Fill cracks, seal it, keep it smooth, but now, every time someone drives over those speed bumps, they slow down. Not just because they have to, but because they remember. Or at least, I think they do. Sometimes I sit on that porch, watch those cars roll through, a little slower now, a little more careful, and I wonder if I went too far. Was it justice, or just pride dressed up like it? I don't know. What I do know is this: people will take and take until something pushes back. And when it does, they call it a problem. So let me ask you something. If you were in my shoes, would you have done the same thing? Or would you have let it go? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm real curious where folks land on this one.